Welcome back to Inside the Lines. Happy Monday. Lots to go over today. So we'll start with Steven. We'll talk about that Kirk Cousins injury. He's out for the season. So we'll show you how that actually quantifies, how it affects their season. Then we have some World Series for you with John, some NFL and college football steam on some lines that is already happening really early in the week. So let's start off with Steven here. We'll talk about Kirk Cousins, what this really means for the Vikings season.
Yeah, I mean, we had overall basically one win fewer in 9 remaining games. This is assuming that Nick Mullins, after this week, will be ready to go and be likely the starter. And also means that we're also expecting – this is also assuming that Minnesota doesn't have a fire sale. But they very well could trade their best players. So if that happens, then this is kind of irrelevant. But the difference here comes down to around 10, 11% in win percentage drop a game. And that's basically 2.5, 3 points, depending on on the line. And interestingly, I think the odds makers had a similar adjustment. Atlanta was -1 on the look ahead, and then it reopened as -4. So that's the impact here. The Minnesota's playing better. It's really kind of tough because we all have a renewed appreciation for Cousins after his Netflix documentary. But yeah, the thing is, Mullins. He has a career 65% completion percentage. He's thrown more touchdowns and interceptions. That's pretty good for a backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm. So you think there could be some value for this team if there aren't any major trades going forward? This could be someone we look into to cover spreads sneakily.
Long shot. If you want to sprinkle $20 to try to make 10,000, why not?
Right. Yeah, and we can preview that game later. We'll take a look at the simulations when we have when we talk about the Falcons game later. Let's move into the World Series quick. I want to get John in here to talk about Game 3. We are headed back to Arizona. This is still hurting my feelings, but I'm just going to let you take it from here.
Yeah, we got Arizona and Rangers tonight. It's going back to Arizona, and we got the sports equinox today. So literally all 4 of the major sports are on tonight. So it's going to be an exciting day for sports fans. This is exactly why I have 4 TVs on the wall for this day exactly. But we've got to go to the Diamondbacks here on the money line against the Rangers. I mean, this one is tough. I've been going back and forth. We got Brandon Pfaadt for the D-backs. He's pitched in 4 postseason games now. He's pitched extremely well. He actually made his major league debut against the Rangers. He gave up 7 earned runs in 4 innings. It really wasn't good for him, but that was also his major league debut, so you can't read too much into the performance there. Max Scherzer on the other side. I mean, he's coming off an injury. He's only made 2 starts since the injury and 2 starts this postseason. He also faced the Diamondbacks one time this year when he was with the Mets. He allowed 4 earned runs in 6 innings pitched. So neither of these starters did too well the one time they faced the opposing team. A big thing here, though, is the bullpens. So Max Scherzer hasn't thrown more than 63 pitches since returning from his injury. Who knows how deep he can go, even if he's super effective, which means that's maximum bullpen for the Rangers. And we know they only have 3 reliable guys at the back end. So that's going to be a lot of opportunity for the Diamondbacks there, where on the other side, the Diamondbacks bullpen has been great, and they've got length, so they can go to it at any time they want, especially coming off the off day. So I've got to go with the Diamondbacks on the money line there. Home dog is too much to pass up.
Yeah, I like that there. Look, even game. This is going to be a tough situation to start to predict. Again, our model starts to lose value later in the season when the odds makers are really fine-tuning, and so are we. So a lot of the time, the model value isn't necessarily there, but we have experts like John to bring it home. So give us your player props, too, you have for tonight.
Yeah, we're going to go with some player props, too. These have been ridiculously successful this postseason, so hopefully we can keep going there. I've got 3 today. So the first one's Brandon Pfaadt over 4.5 strikeouts. It's -105 on DraftKings. I think you can find it at up to +102 on Unibet. I believe Steven mentioned.
Steven said you can get some plus money here.
Yeah, so obviously if you can get that, I would definitely go there. But 4.5 just seems like a low number for me, especially because he's been hitting this number throughout the postseason, and when he hasn't been pitching deep. I think he's going to go 4, probably 5 innings today. He's been striking out tons of batters. Also, he's pitched 2 games at home this postseason, 2 games on the road. The 2 games at home, he hasn't allowed an earned run. So he's been great, and that's in 10 innings pitched. I think the Rangers strike out plenty. Even when they get hits, they still strike out a bunch. So I think over 4.5 is a great number here because I do think he's going to get later in the game. Corbin Carroll over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. I mean, he's heating back up now. He has hits in 5 straight games after he was ice cold. And usually when guys are ice cold and they figure it out, they start getting hits in bunches. And we've seen that as he's hit this prop exactly in 4 straight games now. He's also batting at the top of the lineup. So you've got a guy like Geraldo Perdomo, who we're going to get to, getting on base for him. So that's big for Corbin Carroll RBI opportunities as well, since we know he gets on base to score plenty of runs. But that leads us into our third play here. Geraldo Perdomo over 0.5 total bases. It's at only minus 110. He has a hit in 6 straight games now. He's 9 for his last 20. This guy's been barreling just about everything at the bottom of the order. He's a switch hitter, so he won't get pinch hit for at the bottom or platooned out. So plenty of opportunities for Perdomo to get on base. I think he barrels another one. And I think that leads into a Carroll, possibly a Carroll RBI single as well. So that's our play for today on the money line and our 3 player props.
A question in the chat I want to ask or talk about quick. Rebecca asking about Scherzer and his 4.5 strikeouts. Do we like any value on this?
I think that's a tough one because even when he's pitching well, he usually gets his strikeouts. So I think he's going to end up with around 4 or 5 strikeouts today, even if he's pitching well. I also don't think he's going to go more than 5 innings. So if you think that he's not going to get those strikeouts in the 5 innings, I would go for it. But I personally think he'll end around 4 or 5. So I'm going to stay off that line because I think it's pretty good.
Okay, good to know. Well, good thing we have 3 other player props that we do feel confident in. We're going to move into some Monday Night Football quick with Steven. We've talked about this game through the week. The lines have kind of been moving a decent amount. We've now settled into somewhere around 7.5. So we still have value on the model here with a 10-point game.
Yeah, so we had predicted this team would go towards Detroit, which it did around minus 8.5 and even minus 9 last Tuesday or Wednesday. The reaction back has been definitely a smart money move because the public's still on Detroit. And maybe there's around 0.5 point of value that's been attributed to Amon-Ra St. Brown popping up on the injury list yesterday. I think it's an illness. And so, it's hard to tell how that will happen if they just pump him up with some, fluids and he'll be good to go. But, there could be some value on Josh Reynolds to make up the gap. Reynolds' receiving line was only 35.5. And he's cruised over that 6 or 7 straight games. And he's been averaging nearly 50 as a line with Jared Goff. But again, we're me and Mackenzie were talking about this, a little hesitant whenever someone's on a 6-0 run that 7's kind of tough. But the reason why the model likes Detroit is because the model line's like 10. Because Detroit, last year, they were plus 14 more points per game at home. 33, I believe. And this year it's plus 11 more per game at home. And so having them projected for 30 points seems in line against an average defense or below average defense in the Raiders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that there. Again, their best value here is on the spread. And when you talk about St. Brown, you probably see a little bit of an overreaction from the public on him, but truly any wide receiver shouldn't really be moving the line that drastically. So
yeah,
we like this.
Yeah, there's very few that have that.
Right. Let's move to some games we weren't able to talk about last night during our Sunday night look ahead show. Chicago laying 6.5 point underdogs against the Saints. We think this is a line you probably want to act on now before it moves.
Yeah, it's probably moved to 7 most places. I don't think it'll go up more than 7 because that's just your key number. So if you see it go to 6.5 again, you want to act now. Chicago, they're only 5.5 point dogs before yesterday's horrible performance. I been a bit of a cold streak, and Dante Foreman over, I think it should have hit, but Chicago's offensive coordinators believed, let's take an inexperienced Tyson Bagent from Division II or FCS, and let's have him air it out over and over again and make our defense gassed so Justin Herbert can complete 15 straight passes on us. It was a horrible, play calling. So given how Chicago looked yesterday, I think that this team will continue to be on New Orleans, but I think you can still get, no worse than 7.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back a little bit to Monday Night Football, some questions in the chat about some player props. If you can no need to pull up the model, but if you can just tell us where we have value. Jamison Williams over 26.5 yards and Mayer over 22.5.
Yeah, Michael Mayer, we definitely have some value on. I know last week he didn't have a lot of yards, but he had at least had 4 targets, and so he only had 2 catches for 13. But before that, he had 5 for 75 and 2 for 39. He certainly, like the other 3 or 4 good-looking rookie tight ends, he looks like he's perfectly in line for certainly third. We have a projection of 36. We have a set line of that, which is basically based on how he's been doing since he joined the starter, became a starter. And whereas the 26 and a half line is based more on his overall season average.
Mm-hmm. All right, good to know there. Yeah, Michael Mayer is someone we don't.
Sorry, but Jameson Williams is hard to tell because he'll either go over it by 3-fold or come under with a 0. His game log is weird. It's it goes from 41. You want 1 catch for 41 yards, 2 catches for 2 yards, 2 catches for 53 yards. 1 rush for 40 yards. So there's no average for Jameson Williams. But with St. Brown is out, maybe that there could be some opportunities. It all depends on whether he catches that 40-yard pass. Right.
Let's move back to some games we were talking about yesterday where our predictions were pretty much going where we wanted them to. So we have the Chargers now 2.5-point road favorites against the Jets. Over/under sitting still around 43 here.
Yeah, the thing about this game is the run differential. The Jets, they won probably because of Brian Daboll's, mistake of kicking a field goal on 4th and 1 yesterday. But the Giants should have pulled that one off despite having -8 net passing yards. And that's because the Jets' run defense, which was their defensive weakness last year, has continued to be it's gotten worse this year. So they were -23 per game in run differential last year. And then this year, they're actually worse despite Breece Hall being back. They're worse at -36 this year. Now, the Chargers' run differential was horrible last year, -56 per game. Not overall, not per game. But they're actually +11 this season. The thing about the Chargers is they've been really bad on the road. They're still -36 per game on the road. So this really comes down to, I think, is whether the Jets can reverse their run defense issues and the run differential problems and do what Chicago didn't do, which is keep the Chargers offense off the field. Now, so I think that this game, there isn't much value at 2.5, but if you can get to 3, then I think the Jets would be the play. Because the Chargers tend to, I have to confirm the timing of this game, but the Chargers tend to not play very well when they travel to the East Coast. So that could be a narrative that swings it back from, if it goes to Chargers 3, I could see it swinging back due to that.
Okay, yeah, good to know. A good line to keep our eye on that we can talk about later in the week as well. Let's go to the Colts going to Carolina. This might be my fault. I think Carolina is. Oh no, it is the Colts are 2.5
point
favorite.
That's right. That's and it's my fault that we didn't talk about this last night because it just slipped my mind. I guess I'm not very clued into this compelling AFC
Yes,
South.
this Hollywood matchup.
But this is actually our number 1 current model value. Our model line slightly favors Carolina. And it's so, from that perspective, it's a big time game. So our team total projection for Indianapolis is pretty much the same as the odds team total. So the value we have is in Carolina's offense. So Bryce Young has had 2 good, I'm calling game manager games in a row. Over 200 passing yards, decent completion percentage, clean, no interceptions, 1 touchdown in both games. The Colts defense is getting killed right now. They allowed 38, 39, and 37 in the last 3 games. So that those trends are coming up. With Carolina's defense is also, much better at home. This year they're allowing just 18 a game at home, 3 games, and last year they allowed under 20 in their 8 or 9 home games. So they have the model weights home and away as a significant factor in NFL. So I expect this theme to go towards Carolina as other people using models and stats start looking at this and do a deep dive on Indianapolis.
Yeah, I like that too. And I like the idea of Carolina's team total, just given how terrible this Colts defense has been. Let's move to one more game. I'll just touch on it quickly before we get to some college football. But the Jets will be at the Raiders. Right now, the Raiders are 3.5-point favorites, but we're assuming if they don't suck tonight, that this will continue to steam to the Raiders. So if you predict that the Raiders are going to play decently okay, this is probably the best value that you will get on the Raiders before it starts to steam to them towards the week.
Yeah, I mean, is Daniel Jones still 50-50? So that'll be a big thing. And then I assume people, if he does play, he's going to still be potentially limited, and one bad hit can knock him out. And then Tommy DeVito peaked as a sophomore at Syracuse, I believe. So
definitely some questions to be answered before taking this line. But if you feel confident that the outcome of tonight will be a certain way, this probably could be your best Raiders value without Daniel Jones news. So let's move on. We don't have Jake with us here today, but we do have 2 or 3 major line movements that I do want to talk about quick. Starting with Louisiana, they're laying 9 at Arkansas State. This line has already moved off 8.5 to 9. It probably won't stay on 9 very long. Already at 9.5, 10 on some books, right, Steven?
Even 10.5. So you can still get 9, but you can also get it's steaming. Actually, it's steamed to 10.5 is the biggest number I see.
Yeah, so big time Act Now play. The steam is coming in hot. We have this as a 15-point game with Louisiana. So if you like this play, that was the time to get it. This line's only going to get bigger. Now let's move to another Service Academy game. Crazy steam here. The steam was taking this to 33.5, down to 33 on some books. This opened as a 36-point total, but those crazy Service Academy trends bring this down. Now I will say, and Jake will say this too, the Air Force Army of the Service Academy games is probably your best shot of an over. Air Force's offense is probably one of the higher scoring ones in the Service Academy circle. So there's an opportunity to watch this continue to go down, and maybe you take the over on this game. And then we'll
Air
move
Force
to
still alive for a college football playoff.
Yeah, technically. And one more game I want to talk about for the steam. Kansas State, we talked about this last night. They were 5.5-point dogs going to Texas, and we thought there'd be a lot of steam on Kansas State. And of course there was. Now they're up to 3.5-point dogs at some places. So if you still have trust in them, it's probably not going to go back, I would say. I think a lot of people are on Kansas State, so definitely an Act Now. If you still think there's value there, I don't think it's going to get go back into Texas' favor there. So with that, let's move on to some NBA that we have. 2 model value plays that we're looking at tonight. We'll start with the Lakers money line, a shop around opportunity to get the best value here.
Yeah, I think minus 115, it just ticked out to minus 125. I think there's some value here because Orlando's been very impressive in 2 wins so far this year. The Lakers are playing, after an overtime at Sacramento. Obviously, LeBron is the oldest player in the NBA. Anthony Davis isn't is always an injury risk. So, I'm sure there's a lot of people thinking that LA, maybe they'll rest someone or minutes will be limited. And when LeBron plays, they've been very good and a very positive point differential. When he's not, they're horrible. So if he can't realistically play more than 30 minutes, then that's probably why the public is on Orlando. We still have some value on the LA, especially if you can get anywhere close to minus 125 or less.
Mm-hmm. Let's move to a game. We have some value on the spread. It was an Act Now at 7.5. Possibly could have been moving if you want to check that out, Steven. But we still have Denver game pretty handedly.
I think so. Yeah, it moved to 8. Now, I think that initially there was some steam on Utah because Denver played yesterday in the back-to-back thing. But they played a day game in OKC. It's around an hour and 15-minute flight. So it's not really brutal. They're probably back. And it was an easy win. They crushed OKC. So it wasn't exactly taxing. Utah and also the trends, bettors are probably picking up that Utah was very good, not straight up on the road, but against the spread, they were 26-15. But on the flip side, Denver is very good at home, obviously. They actually had a negative point differential on the road. But at home, they're dominant. And as good as Utah has been against the spread on the road, Denver is even better at home. Denver is 32-20 if you count the first game this year. So we like Denver. The 3-point differential is startling in Denver. Denver's plus 6% per game versus their opponents last year at home. They're projected to be plus 7 tonight. Utah is minus 3 on the road. So that's the difference here, shooting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. We are starting to ramp up our NBA picks as MLB winds down. I'm sure we'll have some more time to spend on the show to the NBA, but those are our 2 best model picks for now. Tomorrow, we'll see some more trade deadline stuff. Derek already talking about Leonard Fournette going to the Bills. So a lot of a lot of trades we'll be able to talk about, a lot of information to get through. So stay tuned tomorrow for that and some more steam on some games, and we'll hit some NBA as well.
That Fournette deal is a big deal if he has time travel. If he has a time machine and can actually go back to 2016, it's a big deal.
Would have been worth it, yeah.
But barring his ability to traverse the time-space continuum and all that, then yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, not much to see there, but maybe there will be some bigger trades. We'll see what the Vikings do, certainly. So stay updated. Ask us your questions on Twitter as always, and we will see you guys tomorrow.